What question do you get asked the most?
Can I use a questionable word?
Yes.
Are you as big as you come off on television?
So, John, you have a ton going on. I had to write it all down to figure it. You've got
I'm
Bar
not sure
Rescue.
I remember it all myself, yeah.
Bar Rescue, the No Excuses podcast, Marriage Rescue. You got a tech business with Bar HQ. You got food and beverage with Taffer's Mixology craft drink mixes and the sparkling cocktails that go with them. And you're opening Taffer's Tavern. Like, that's so much going on. Without talking about those, how on earth do you figure out what to do next? Like, what do you, that's a ton. I mean, how do you manage it all, and how do you say, yeah, yes, no, yes, no? How do you make those decisions?
Well, you have to do it based upon income. All of us must monetize things.
Yeah.
Right. So if it doesn't monetize, it's not worth my time.
Yeah.
Right. I'm done building brands.
Yeah.
I've made enough friends. I've made enough contacts. It's all about the money now, candidly.
Yeah.
So you look at the monetization potential of something, and then you look at your entry to it. And every business has barriers.
Yeah.
And if there's anything I've learned, one of my dear friends is Dr. Phil, and Dr. Phil always says, how do you take advantage of your unfair advantage? We all have unfair advantages. What are they? Are they personality advantages? Are they asset advantages? Are they flavor advantages, brand advantages? So I take a look at what are the barriers to entry, and do my advantages provide me with an advantage in a marketplace that makes my investment lower risk than the other people that are in that space. And that's how I calculate it in my brain. So if it feels right in that regard, meaning competitive, I can break the barrier down that somebody else can't, I typically jump in.
And are you getting a flood of things that you actually do say no to? I mean,
Sure.
Yeah.
I say no to a bunch of things. When we launched our seltzer, the seltzer was a vision that I had about a year ago.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to get into pitching the product, but the point is I had a point of difference in the marketplace that I could exploit. So a year later, from when I came up with the idea to when I actually implemented it, there were 71 other products in the market over the course of that year.
1 year.
1 year.
And just to go back for a second, that was your idea. That wasn't someone coming to you and saying, hey, I got this seltzer idea. Will you put your brand on it?
Oh, no, this is my idea. I own a company.
Yeah.
We pitched those to Walmart, and those are in 4,478 Walmarts. So we just crossed in a few months 200,000 units.
Wow.
Of that mix. So that's how we started in the consumer space. But I must say, I was on television for 8 years before I even thought I should venture into the consumer space.
Yeah.
Because I didn't feel that I had the brand to knock down those barriers yet, that I didn't have that unfair advantage yet. After about 8 years on television, and I'm very fortunate, Bar Rescue has an audience of about 91 million. About a third of the television universe has watched Bar Rescue at some point. Well, it's on so many damn hours every week.
Thank you, everyone here.
Thank you. So that was a surprise. I thought I'd do a pilot and go home. Whoever thinks that a television show would last as long as this does.
I looked up the ratings of the show season over season. It's been the same. Couple of seasons a little higher, never a decline.
Yeah.
It's
if
unbelievable.
it stops, it won't be because of the network. It'll be because of me. Because it just keeps rating, and the marathons do incredibly well, and you can't plan that.
That's they say a rising tide floats all boats. That's in a sinking tide. Like the television.
Yes, well, cable is down.
Cable is down. Total rating points are down. Yeah. Your show is flat and up. That's
not only that.
Very
the shows air an average of about 21 times a year each episode, with the marathons, and now it's on Monday through Friday in the mornings. So the evergreen nature of it is fascinating to me. I don't quite get it myself, how people can watch them again and again and again, but I've learned a lesson through Bar Rescue. Yeah. And that is to never discount the intelligence of your audience. Never discount the intelligence of the people around you. So when I make Bar Rescue, I've shut the show down 4 times with the network. Production and reality are at odds with each other. Production wants to know everything that's going to happen before it happens, how it happens, when it's going to cost. They want to know everything. Reality is contrary to that. So when I do Bar Rescue, I get literally a 1-minute briefing. John, they're losing this amount of money. They're ready to kill each other. They have enough money to make it 3 more months, and that's that. And then I go in knowing no more than you do. And that's why I think the show is successful, because I'm very committed to keeping it real. And if a producer comes on set, typically they're not there very long. So I haven't had a network executive on my show for close to 100 episodes.
And I just want to underline one thing you said in there. So you said you've walked off the show 4 times.
4 times.
And the reason you walked off was because someone tried to script something.
They tried to fake me out and infuse a bit of production into a show that should be real. And that was unacceptable. But I'm a unique television talent because I had money before I went on TV. See, most people in reality TV don't have the money when they get the deal, so they'll do anything production says so they don't lose the next check.
Right.
I wasn't hung up on the next check. I was more hung up on my reputation.
Yeah.
And the whole reality show thing scared me a little bit.
Yeah.
I didn't want to lose my brand equity because I was pretty successful before TV. So I went in it in a much more aggressive sense of that I'm going to do this my way. I won't compromise myself for your network.
Yeah.
That's just something I would never do. But
So
I was fortunate to be in that position.
I'm going to pick up again on something else you said earlier on, which is the seltzer line, there were 2 people in the market, you developed it, you got what you wanted going, and you go to release it, and there's 71 people in the market. So this is a group of media professionals, right? So they understand what it is to have to cut through the clutter. So what did you do, or what are you doing to differentiate yourself in what has become a very, very, very crowded market?
Well, honestly, we have to engage. And the way we engage today is not through traditional television. You guys know that. So people aren't watching ads on traditional television. I used to run the Nightclub and Bar Media Group, which is a huge nightclub and bar convention. We had restaurant magazines and nightclub magazines. And 8 years ago, we went from the printed magazine to digital. And now digital has become web-based streaming programming like this. And I find that most media buyers have lost the connection to audience along the way. I've been very fortunate. On Bar Rescue, when you throw food in somebody's face, it tends to go viral. When you tell somebody to go screw themselves, it tends to go viral. So I'm lucky because I can act in outrageous ways on television to create an awareness that has spread my brand. That's unique to me, but I'm able to do that because I'm well-intended. So I'm not fighting with you, I'm fighting for you. I'm just fighting with you at the moment to fight for you. So it's all how you caveat that moment. But in the kind of media buying that we do today, we must create attention to get out of that crowded space. Attention means we have to walk the borders. Attention happens when we walk the border, when we walk the edge. If there's a box of normalcy, the last place I want to be is in the middle of it. The last place I want is a spot that looks like somebody else, sounds like somebody else. I want to walk the edges. I want words that make you say, what? I want phrases that make you say, what? I want images in the first 3 seconds that make you say, what? I want big fat claims that make you say, oh yeah, I want to watch that. So we have to be extremely manipulative in what we do today. Manipulation doesn't happen in the middle of the box. Manipulation happens on the edges. Excitement, engagement, all happens on the edge. So how do we promote our products focusing on that edge? If there's anything that must exist with today's media buy, it's courage. It's courage to walk the edge. It's courage to step out of the box, and it's the wisdom to know that you don't buy a flight until you have something that excites you. And when it's exciting to you, then you have a chance of breaking out of that noise. But to me, it's all about walking the edge.
So going back to Bar Rescue for a second, tell us, I don't know if this is even possible, because it sounds to me like on Bar Rescue, everything's out there, right? Mm-hmm. Have you got anything is there something about Bar Rescue that didn't make it to TV?
Sure.
That you wish it had?
Sure. There's actually some of my favorite scenes ever didn't make it to TV. You see, Bar Rescue is shot over 4 days. And what happens in Bar Rescue is I show up on set, I get about a 60-second briefing. I've never seen casting reels. I have people who do that for me. I know nothing. I get that short briefing I told you about. Yeah. I then go in and do my recon. Let's say that takes 2-3 hours. I throw my food, I scream and yell, whatever it is I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do when I walk in. Yeah. It's all based upon the personality and what happens. I'm just working it moment by moment. Yeah. At the end of recon, we take all the employees, put them in vans in the parking lot. I go in and I design the bar that night. So after recon, I design the bar. So I'm there till about 1 in the morning with my team. I'm designing the bar. The next day is day 2, which is stress test. So we train and do stress test on camera. Off camera, I'm signing off on every bar stool, every piece of wallpaper. Now, by the end of that second day, the logos have to be at the sign company. The recipes have to be done. The food needs to be ordered. The bar stools, everything has to be picked out. Since I can't get it, I have to get everything in 24 hours. I can't get this bar stool. I can't get that wallpaper. It's very difficult to put a design together.
Yeah.
Day 3, we train off-site, and we do remodel it in 36 hours, just like you see on television.
Yep.
Day 4, the employees pull up with blindfolds on. We keep them in hotels so they can't see what I'm doing.
And you pay for all of that, right?
Of course we do. Yeah. We do the 1, 2, 3, turn them around. I'll stay for an hour or two, get my hug, and go off to the next one.
Yeah.
And we've done up to 50 a year, which is an unbelievable amount of content.
That's crazy.
Bar Rescue, dare I say, and you'll be surprised when I say this, is quite Shakespearean, actually. Person in trouble, resists change, starts to transfer, redeems themselves, happy ending. It's as Shakespearean as it gets. And that structure and that model follows through on many television shows that we all watch. If they don't turn and start to transform in the third act, they got a major problem.
Right.
My whole show starts to unravel.
Right.
If they don't resist me in the second
Have you had
act,
a whole show unravel and just not air?
well, no, because I'm pretty good at it. So I steer them through it. But so I've never had one that hasn't aired. But the fact of the matter is, it's very difficult to use the emotion in the moment to get you to the next spot of that curve. So they have to resist me in the second act. They have to succumb to me, if you will, or adapt to change in the third act, and they have to redeem themselves in the fourth. So I'm conscious of that. So I won't let you like me till the third act. I spend no time with somebody off camera. The second the cameras are off, I walk out. I don't walk back in until the cameras are on again. If you were angry at me last night, when I come in tomorrow, you're still going to be angry at me. There's no hello, there's no good night, there's no see you tomorrow, there's none of that stuff. I walk out angry, I walk in angry. So everything is on camera. They don't say a word to me that is not on camera. So when I'm consciously driving story and bringing them through these spots of resistance, redemption, a happy ending, etc., I'm very conscious of it in real time. Sometimes they're in one place longer than others. But it's my job as the host to move through that story curve and to make that happen. And what's unique for me is I produce my show. So I'm producing what I host, and I'm hosting what I produce. That's very unique in television.
Yeah.
So it makes me a far better producer, knowing it as a host. I know when a producer blows it when you're a host, and you know when a host blows it when you're a producer, because you know that whatever you tried to capture didn't happen. So it's a unique situation for me to do both, and I think it's made me better at both.
So talk to me a little bit about stress. So, we've all seen you on that show get pretty damn angry. That looks pretty real to me. And anger is stressful. Are you just channeling something and you go back into your hotel or wherever you are and you're like, I'm fine? Or is that so real? Or do you, how do you live with that?
Well, sometimes it's deliberate. To me, anger is a tool.
Yeah.
I'm actually an extremely deliberate person. I believe the definition of management is the achieving of objectives through the manipulation of others. I don't say manipulation is a bad word. If I gave you a 30% raise, that wouldn't be a bad thing, would it? But it's manipulative to get the next level of production out of you. So, I have to manipulate story.
She's going to talk to you later about that raise.
When people do things that challenges the personal goodwill of somebody else, a husband is doing something that's hurting the wife or hurting the children or hurting the employees, when it's personal, the anger is real.
Yeah.
When it's business, the anger is completely deliberate. And I will walk out of the scene often and suddenly smile because I want this guy to own it. I want to make him accountable. So I will get angry to force that accountability. But when I was doing my 120th bar rescue, and I'm going to ramble for a minute. When I was doing my 120th bar rescue, I was in Detroit, Michigan. And it was the 120th episode, and I said to the woman who owned the bar in Detroit, "Why are you failing?" And this woman looked at me and said, "I'm failing because of the euro in Greece." Now this was in Detroit, Michigan. When she said that to me, I realized then, for the first time, out of 120 episodes of Bar Rescue, when I ask people why they're failing, and I do it every time, never once had anybody said I'm failing because of me, John. Never one time. I realized after that 120th episode, I found a common denominator of failure: excuses. And what is an excuse? An excuse is a reconciliation of a mistake. You did something you shouldn't have, you didn't do something you should have, or you screwed up. So now I create some excuse to blame it on somebody else. I cuddle up with that excuse at night and I go to sleep. Excuses make us feel good about screwing up. So if we stopped using excuses, we'd hold ourselves more accountable. That's how I wrote the book, Don't BS Yourself. And the premise is, if you look in the mirror in the morning and say, I'm failing because of me, you won't like that and you'll change. If you look in the mirror and say, I'm failing because of something else, you have no freaking reason to change. So it's all about accountability. Once I learned that, I got even heavier in bar rescue.
I've seen you do
to
it.
force accountability.
Yeah.
To force them to say that they own this.
Yeah.
In the height of the recession, somebody made money. In snowstorms, somebody makes money. In the rain, somebody makes money. So all of these excuses are typically bull. And if we hang on to the excuse, we're throwing away accountability. And accountability is what drives success, not excuses. So that's why I wrote, don't BS yourself. Stop the excuses that are holding you back. And we picked apart the big excuses that impact us all so much, like fear, for example.
Yeah.
You know, I'm scared to buy a schedule. I'm scared to buy. We're scared to do things millions of people have already done before. Fear is complete BS, unless you're standing on the edge of a cliff. You know, I love the excuse of time. I didn't have the time. You didn't have the time. If it was important to you, you would have woken up early. You would have gone to sleep later. You would have walked. So, I mean, that's complete bull. And when we look at all the excuses, scarcity. Tell that to Stephen Jobs when he created a company in his garage with no money. So none of these excuses are valid. All they are is things to paralyze us. They're reasons to stop. Oh, I got an excuse. I shouldn't do that anymore. So when I look at bar rescue, that accountability, those excuses drive me crazy. That's when I get angry.
So just to celebrate that for a second, because I think this stat is sort of amazing. You know, businesses fail all the time, right? And you're approaching failing businesses. Mm-hmm. And I believe that your success rate after the show is over is like 80%.
Yeah, it is. It's in the 70s now. There are companies that track it separately. By comparison, and I don't want to beat anybody up because he's a friend of mine, Restaurant Impossible runs 21% success. We run 70.
Yeah.
But there's a difference.
But I was going to say that I'm sure that part of that is, so you're paying for the renovation. That's great. The renovation is great. But getting people to overcome their excuses and change their behavior has to be one of the reasons that these things are successful.
Oh, completely. And it's the premise that if I don't change the way you think, I can't change what you do.
Yeah.
So in order to change behavior, I have to change the way you think.
Yeah.
I have to change the way you create accountability on yourself. If I can make you angry at yourself, if I can make you embarrassed at yourself, that's pretty powerful. Those are the kind of things you react to as a person. You don't like being embarrassed.
No.
You don't like being shamed. No. You don't like, being told you're an idiot.
Yeah.
And you don't like being told that in front of your wife, especially.
Yeah.
Well, I will go there in a heartbeat because I'm there for 4 days. Your house is on the line. Your wife is going to leave you. You don't have the money to send your kids to college. How dare me go there for 4 days, you thinking I'm going to help you, and then I don't go for it. Yeah. So I do go for it. And those confrontations typically always have a purpose, and I get my hug at the end, every episode except for one.
Really?
Yes.
You're going to tell us about that story?
Sure. O-Face, the one I walked out of, they didn't hug me.
Wow.
I didn't remodel, I walked out on them. Did anybody ever see that episode, the O-Face episode? The most unlikable people I've ever met in my life. I mean, you felt the vibe 10 feet away. You didn't even want to go any closer. You know what I mean?
Wow. Fair enough. Jon, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Come with us, everybody.
Yeah.